Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. I hope you're doing better and enjoying your day so far, with OpTic putting down a very impressive performance against the Los Angeles Thieves to confirm their status as the #1 seed in these Major 2 qualifiers. Lots of reaction to just how this has happened over the last few weeks, with Paris losing to Cloud9 despite winning the first Major of the season, our OpTic especially with Huke taking over and Dashy really starting to come into his own, once again the team to beat. Intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you are new, as always I greatly appreciate it. Apologies for no video last night, it was my swimming club's annual dinner and like awards presentation thing last night. I thought, okay, maybe I can get back in time to make a video. That didn't happen in the end. We did pick up a trophy, so that was pretty good. Here you go. I don't know if it quite matches Trey's stage 1 trophy from MVP trophy for Infinite Warfare, but you know, it's pretty nice. So let's talk about what happened yesterday. First of all, Pick'ems nailed it 4 out of 4 yesterday, only one to do so, and interesting result. I can't lie, this first series was so unsurprising to me that Falcons and G2 went 5. Like, of course they were going to go 5. It's just how these teams operate, and G2 taking the win in both search and destroys also wasn't a massive surprise. This has been the key problem with Falcons as of late. Their search hasn't been good. Game 2 they get smoked, game 5 they get smoked, so it is what it is. Even though they dominated the Scar overloads, they won the map 1, all it took was a Crimp Losses on the map 4, and you know, nice to see Crimp Losses back in the building to some degree. G2 get the win, so interesting for Falcons. They've been on a pretty good run lately, but G2 always a difficult team to beat, certainly when it's a map 5. This was interesting though. So Kips comes into Toronto, JoeDeceives, he's back on his BS. We know that when things were kind of rounding down with the ReeaL situation, JoeDeceives started to fall off a bit. Well, I don't think his ability or like his level has necessarily fallen off, but the last couple of series they played with ReeaL, JoeDeceives has thrown up the horse, as Tom would say, and maybe not like expected when the team was totally compromised. So JoeDeceives says, GG's Miami, 1-3-0. Obviously interesting timing, because this was a series that very importantly they lost back at the Major to get knocked out of the tournament. Now with Kips on the roster, they've gone on to win it. So is this enough, right? Is Insight playing better since the one-man move? Yes. Is Insight still next on the chopping block if things don't go to plan? Also probably yes. But a rough series here out of Metals. Again, it's just like Metals is the most inconsistent player going. He will have some dominant maps. He will have some maps like this when you're going to get a performance when he has a 0.5, 0.4, 0.6 over the 3 maps, and they end up getting knocked out, no questions asked. So big result for Toronto there. The other result, which I'm not really going to talk much about, was Surge versus the Ravens. Yeah, they just got absolutely slammed. TJ has a 0.5, and good news for Surge is tonight they play OpTic. So yes, good luck with that one. But the OpTic series caused a lot of talking points, and for understandable reasons. So Paris won the Major, OpTic was second at their home tournament, and Paris started out this stint looking good again in the online domain, but then they lost to Cloud9 the other day, and that's changed the game to some degree. There are questions as to, you know, Simp was doing a bit of snaking. Things have been going around, and I just wonder how Paris will look coming out of this long online stint. People are also going to talk about Paris and say, well, you know, Envoy's delivered as he usually does at Major 1 at the start of the season. Then, is he going to be quite as prolific for the next few months? Certainly history would tell you that Envoy tends to start pretty well, then obviously he can get back there and maintain it to an extent, and I still rate Envoy very highly as a player. I think he's the perfect outfit, or like perfect player to complete that outfit, as it were, with what they need on the roster. But also, can they maintain that level is a reasonable question, and the loss to Cloud9 was, yeah, pretty shocking. Yes, it is an online series, and I'm sure they'll still be a very competitive force, but it showed that there are some serious weaknesses in that gentlemate situation. So, the #1, #2 seeds going into yesterday's series was OpTic and Thieves, and yeah, if Thieves won this series, they weren't all of a sudden going to be considered the best team in the game, but with Nium, they seem to have made some progress. Of course, when you play OpTic, you need to sub in Kenny, and if you can't sub in Kenny, you're probably going to lose. And that's what OpTic pulled off this series, but I think the manner in which they won this series, that was the impressive thing. Certainly for the future of what the season looks like. You know, this shot here from Dashy in the search and destroy on the exposure was really nice. They were up 5-2 at this point anyway, so they quite quickly get the job done in the search and destroy. Then we go to an overload, and Mercules didn't have to do much this series, to be honest, and that is an impressive sign. Obviously, Merc just picks up 3 when he needs to, because that's what he does. But in this series, he didn't need to do that much. And I think that's what OpTic found to be particularly happy about at this point, is that Merc was not bailing them out. Yes, he kind of bailed them out here with the 3-piece. But most of the series, we weren't talking about Mercules, which has been a pretty common feature, certainly of online play. Shotzzy will be usually pretty good. Sometimes online that's less true, but on LAN there's no real doubts there. But Mercules will be the man doing most of the damage. Huke's Search and Destroy has been questionable. Dashy's overall impact has been lower than some of the other ARs, I would say, so far this season. But things have changed over the last couple of weeks. We've seen it a little bit in scrims, and now we're seeing it replicated in matches as well, when OpTic have a lot of firepower when all of their players are firing, right? And that's the scary thing with OpTic, is that if all of them, if any one of them plays really well and has a great map at any given time, they're in a really strong position. And the fact that it was Dashy on the overload who really took over. We've seen a bit of this in scrims, some takeover maps. Look, we would expect, given it's Dashy, that he would have probably had more, you know, I'm not saying he hasn't been impactful for the first part of the season, but Dashy's not been a player that we've talked about much for the first major cycle, because he's changed the role he plays. He's no longer the play for kills AR, and he's got Merc as his duo, right? So it is what it is. But we know that Dashy's talent was always going to shine at some point, and to see him have some real takeover maps now is good for his improvement. But also, Huke has probably been the key question mark, because going into this season, Mercules is obviously no doubt about that. Shotzzy, while people do debate his play online, I mean, like, there's no doubt about what Shotzy's achieved. The question really was, okay, wow, Huke and Shotzzy, they should be unbelievable at this title, right? How good are they going to be? And Huke was, for the first stage, pretty underwhelming. But in yesterday's series, certainly in this map for Colossus, this was just really impressive, because Thieves, we know that they're pretty good, right? They've made some progress, it seems, with Nium being a bit more of a well-rounded team. Thieves, of course, we only really get to see that in the online domain for now, but, you know, they were 4-0. They started out really strong. This was their first real test, for sure, but also they've got Scrappy, aBeZy, and HyDra on the team, right? So it's always going to be a pretty competitive force, but the way that OpTic just caught fire and really took over this map was incredibly impressive. Huke's comms on the listen turned a lot of heads. Dashy's just individual level here as well. Yeah, OpTic just flipped a switch, and we've seen them do this before, but also this has been a feature of so many great teams that the hardpoint will go 100-100, and then in the second rotation, they really just stretch their legs, right? So we saw a lot of reaction to this. The way that OpTic just took over at that moment was very impressive, and it's had a lot of people talking about, well, hang on a second here, Mercules just kicked his feet up this series, and OpTic still handled business without too much difficulty. So lots of reaction to Huke and his plays. Obviously, it was a competitive series. It is going to be with these type of players on the line. Shotzzy extends his record 4-8 now against HyDra online, but 9-2 against HyDra on LAN, which is pretty interesting stuff, and we'll see if that one continues. The overall numbers, of course, finished as follows. Mercules with a 0.8, you're not going to see that every day. Still a positive BP rating, though, because still positive impact on the result. Dashy, Shotzzy at a 1.27. Didn't really talk too much about Shotzzy here, because most of the talk was about Dashy and Huke and them improving in various ways, but Shotzzy also dropped 100 kills, right? So he had a great series here when it mattered against the Thieves. Scrap had a really good map 1, 36-28, but after that he did get absolutely slammed. 2-6, 14-23, and 21-35. So that leads to a Scrap 0.79, which you are not going to see every day. So a couple of clips to share here. Certainly plenty of reaction from Formal, among others, to OpTic, you know, setting the tone yesterday.
I do like the way OpTic played that. But Brandon, for the most part, for that whole map, was setting the tone on the lanes. You know, every lane that Thieves wanted to push out, like led by Scrap, probably like play calling it as well, and depending on like a Scrap kill to do it, Brandon was stopping it. It was very good from Brandon. The map. 2-1, man.
I guess big individual plays and big moments from OpTic. 100%. Yeah.
He's been frying in scrims too, bro. So I'm happy to see that he's like putting it together in matches.
To play Den Overload versus OpTic, because I don't know.
But for real though, don't ever kill team kill Mace again though. That was actually baited as fuck if you want to win.
He is ready to go. Huke and Shotzzy taking over. Let's hear the comms out from OpTic Texas.
You're the best. I spawned in a roll there. All yellow, all yellow.
Let's try to buy time burst.
I
have a trophy of time. Can you watch my tunnel?
Okay.
I'm in there.
I'm nading front. Upper crest of them. Me too. I'm ironing cross. Taco. BC cross. Play 2 front. Another one front.
I'm deep pinching. I'm deep pinching. Yo, one guy could go top mid or tunnel.
Okay.
It's Nium. I'm on a deep pinch though.
Nium dead.
Got one.
I see. I think they're flipping. I think they're flipping.
Back yellow. Back yellow HyDra. You're missing a strap.
Scrap in here.
They're both there. They're both there.
Should get traded. Bang.
Mercules inside.
We're one wave away.
Yeah, have fun, fellas. Fly at him if you want.
Thieves spawning out, trying to get through. Shotzzy trying to decide what route he wants to
Yeah, it's
take.
GG.
Yeah,
It's
bro.
going to be a
That's
flank
game.
route.
GG. Optic take out Thieves. Let's fucking go, boys. Come on. Let's get it. Dude, the subs just fucking feasted on him. Holy guacamole. I mean, Big Brucey as well. I mean, the SMG duo, Big Brucey.
That one got a little bit dicey, but in the end, you guys clutch up. So, in your opinion, what separates you?
I think it's my teammates, man. You got Ant that's just getting lost. Kyler's getting active as well. And then Mason Saquon. So he's just, I don't know, getting those dunks in. And I'm just kind of following the boys. So, yeah.
What was it about today for you specifically, Brandon? Because I thought you had your best series we've seen in a long time. It was going crazy in the green.
Come on, Brandon. Give a little sauce, bro. Give a little sauce, bro. Way too PR in this shit, bro.
I mean, I'm not really too concerned with my numbers. Just
Like, bro, I've been...
if we're winning or not. So,
Stop.
yeah,
Just say,
like I
bro,
said,
I don't know you guys been watching, bro. I've been standing out in the open, challenging and scrimmed and shit. I'm like, do something about it. They didn't do something about it today either. So, obviously, you know, that's what he should be saying. I just do my part, do my 25.
It was two of our undefeated teams
Like, bro,
going
what?
up against each other, seeing where you
Pretty remarkable stat here for Mercules now. So after the win yesterday, that puts him as an even or winning record against 49 of his 51 career opponents that he's played. So these are the figures. This is just, you know, yesterday. Mercules has a 27-10 record since debuting for Toronto at stage 3 of last year. The only players that he had a losing record against on the Toronto and then on OpTic, Scrap 1-2, HyDra 1-2, aBeZy 1-2. So that's now been tied up at a 2-2, and it's Simp and Drazah. And of course, well, OpTic do play FaZe quite shortly. They play next weekend. So Mercules has the opportunity to get back to having a losing record against nobody in the Pro League, which would be pretty impressive if he could get there, given he's been in the league now for quite some time. These are the games of today. So speaking of gentlemates, they are in action again tonight. And this will be really interesting to see because Toronto, they just 3-0'd the Heretics yesterday. Gentlemates are coming off a really interesting loss to Cloud9. Yeah, they're going to play better than they did against Cloud9. But also, I think this can be a competitive series, right? It's impossible to say otherwise, given that Koi have improved with Kips and that Gentlemates are coming off a very interesting loss. So that series is really telling. And of course, you're expecting OpTic to take down Surge. If OpTic take the series seriously, they will have no problem dealing with that. So also Surge going down again, it's a good story for Cloud9 potentially, right? We did talk about this, because if Cloud9 want to make it to the major, they're going to really need probably Boston and Surge to be the two teams 11th, 12th that don't make it. So Cloud9 today, they're hoping that FaZe beat Boston, which they should, but with Spartan, you know, he could drop another 1.4. And what's interesting about FaZe is it was their search and destroy lately that's been their struggle point, which has been a bit surprising for that team. Boston, on the other hand, they need a Game 5 win in them because they lost the one to Ravens the other day. So Cloud9 then play Heretics. Heretics coming off a hot 3-0 loss. Again, Cloud9 could be, probably should be, licking their lips at the prospect here. Still, to pick them to win back-to-back series and go 2-0 weekends, I'm not sure I'm going to go quite that far, but I do think it should be a competitive one. So, look, coming into the weekend, I looked at this Sunday and thought, wow, not the greatest day of action. But actually, as the way that things have played out, tonight is pretty interesting. So, wants to throw to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
Me and Ernie were talking before this series. We were on FaceTime just catching up.
No, you weren't.
I know y'all probably don't know this insider info. It's probably news for everybody watching. They were trying shit. They were trying shit today.
What were they trying, man?
That's why they smoked him first, man.
He was trying shit too. He was in their ear with it.
No, see, he wasn't trying none today. He had to be locked in. That's why he was trying real hard. He wasn't trying shit. But Thieves was trying shit today.
Bruce had us by the pillow, brother. Holy fuck.
What position was they trying, doggy? That voice was getting pounded.
Pat, you got any actual thoughts on a series, Pat? You got any actual thoughts?
Bro.
I mean, Sam's talking about like they got absolutely smoked. I don't think it was like that.
No, they kind of dig it.